Out of over 16 million hex codes available, there are two every designer knows. They form the strongest possible contrast and they are the backbone of many established brands. And here's why you should reconsider using them together. Now, what are these and what is a pure black anyhow? In the RGB color model, each color has different values of red, green, and blue, ranging from 0 to F. F represents the maximum amount of a color, while 0 represents the minimum amount of a color. So 6 Fs signify there's the highest possible concentration of all three colors, which makes a pure white. Which is weird when you think about it, but it's the way our eyes work and it's pretty complicated. But simply put, 6 zeros mean there's a complete absence of any of the three colors, which makes a pure black. There are actually 4 reasons for why you may want to avoid a pure black in your designs. The first and most important one is contrast. Now yeah, contrast is crucial. Contrast creates clarity, especially if your audience is older or visually impaired. Using a pure black can actually be a great thing. But for most users, there is such a thing as too much contrast on mobile devices, especially now when everybody is glued to a screen all of the time. Eyes get tired, and the harsh contrast a pure black creates on a pure white may bother users. It's harder to read, and you might have noticed it yourself. Did you ever look at a screen and it's a pure black and it just kind of radiates at you and it gets all blurry and distorted? And even if you haven't and you think it's a negligible difference, you think nobody's even going to notice, well, I think it's better to make a conscious decision that nobody's going to notice than make a bad decision that somebody's going to notice because it's annoying or disruptive. Which brings us to our second reason. Pure black will overpower other colors if they are less bright. Think pastel colors, which are often much more appropriate to use in your designs than their brighter counterparts. Can you see how the pure black just drowns out all the colors and brings all the attention to itself? Especially compared to a color that is slightly less black. Chances are you want your colors to be something that highlights an element, that makes your buttons or text stand out. Not much point then in your black getting as much as or more attention than your red, is there? Speaking of attention, I could use some, so hit that thumbs up. The third reason may sound a bit odd, but it's pretty unnatural. Now, yeah, everything on a screen is technically unnatural, and even the pure black on a screen is not actually pure black. But contrast as powerful as the one you get on a screen are rare in nature, with the exception of zebras. And even that isn't that black. See, in nature, everything that is bright either emits light or reflects light. And as a result, it also lights up its surroundings, reducing the contrast naturally. Also, most shadows you see in nature aren't black, they actually have a lot of color in them. This ties into our first point because we're simply not used to such high contrast because they are not widely available anywhere else. The last reason, the last and the least, is that it's basic. It's the easiest option to choose when going for a black and white color scheme, and it's very prevalent when it comes to how many brands primarily use it as well. If nothing else, I know you've been guilty of this. You start designing something or you start developing a website, and without giving it much thought, you just slap on a pure black. I dare you to admit this in the comments below. Now, I'm not one to value standing out above all, even if it negatively impacts the quality of your work, but if you can stand out just a tiny bit by making your designs just a tiny bit more user-friendly and professional, why wouldn't you? Now, what should you use instead? Well, if you look at the majority of dark elements of major websites or apps, including the one you're watching this on right now, you'll notice their blacks are just a little bit brighter, just a little bit more gray than actually black, or it's black with hints of different colors. Personally, I like to use one of these when designing because I prefer my darks to have no other colors, but if you want to, adding in a hint of color can really enhance your darks and fit into your color scheme beautifully. The key here to all of this is to not go too light. Go too light and you'll be doing the exact opposite of what you're trying to achieve. You're gonna mess up the contrast, and at best, your work is gonna be annoying to users, and at worst is gonna be inaccessible to those who are visually impaired. Now, another point a lot of designers argue is the black isn't the problem, the white is, and you would do more good by switching out the background for a very light gray while keeping the text or elements pure black. Which is a great way to go about it, but personally I find it easier and less obvious to both users and clients to just make my blacks a little lighter. But here are a few gentle grays I like to use in my designs in case you want to find suitable replacements to a pure white that also work well on a dark background. Now, when it comes to traditional or printed media, the story is quite different. Books don't emit light, but screens do. The contrast you can get on a screen is much harsher than the contrast you can get on something printed, at least under normal circumstances and under normal lighting conditions. Now you might say, Tim, but this is a complicated issue. It isn't just black and white. And you would be right, because that is exactly the point. When picking pure black, do you actually stop and think, do Do I really want this to be a pure black? Now what I want you to take away from this is, pure black is not bad in itself, and neither is pure white. They can be amazing when used correctly. But most of all, they have to be used purposefully, instead of just being used everywhere because it's the easiest thing to do. It should be a conscious design decision. If you like this video, continue on to this one. I think you're going to find it very interesting as well. Drop a like, and let me know your thoughts on using pure black in your designs. Thank you for watching. Oh, and be sure to send this video to your designer or developer friends, unless you want to have a competitive advantage over them.